So I got something to talk about today, which, if some of y'all follow me on Facebook and read what I wrote last week, because I don't post very often, you already kind of know where this is going. So, spoiler alert: don't read that post from last week, y'all. Might have been handier to give it back then, but just to give the backstory on it. Of all the things in the world, I have to start with, which I suppose is proper form for me talking. I got to bring up the Lilo and Stitch movie. There's a scene early on in the movie where the younger girl, the Lilo of the title, is hiding in a dryer from her older sister, and when she thinks her sister has snuck out, she opens the dryer so that she can hang out at home instead of going to school. In the original cut, it's a dryer. It's right next to a washing machine. It makes perfect sense. Well, people have been trying to watch the movie on Disney Plus and are going, what's going on here? It's not a dryer anymore. And if you look at it, they have repainted the scene so that it's not a dryer. It's like a shelf and like an end table right next to the washer with boxes kind of stacked up next to it. The lid of the dryer, the front thing she crawls out of, has been replaced with a pizza box. And it just kind of knocks down and she crawls out. Otherwise, the scene is exactly the same. Okay, now I got to get to another thing I got to bring up. The hashtag Pizzagate stuff going on. The occurrence of pizza as a code word for the child trafficking that is supposed to be going on. The accusation, of course, is that Disney is also helping out with this stuff like that. Disney likes their symbology, and so Sherry had posted on these two matters. Like, they like their symbology. This is kind of a thing. She posts about hashtag Save Our Children a lot. Apparently, you're supposed to avoid Save the Children because Bill Gates has a foundation called Save the Children, and he's also involved in this. So apparently they will like even to Save Our Children, not that one, because that just builds more clout and circulation for one of the guys allegedly involved in it. So that was, in short, the post. Now, I had replied to it in conversation with her, saying, like, hey, I did some research on this. Apparently, in 2009, 10, somewhere in that ballpark, the DVD release in Britain said, hey, before they were like, hey, you've got to change that scene or we're not going to give you the rating you want. We're going to change it to the next rating up. And then less people will buy the thing for the kids because they're like, we don't want to see a little kid in a dryer because that could be dangerous. So they had them repaint the scene. That's the official story on the origin of that scene. And the Disney Plus said, we're going to just keep it easy and we're going to use that cut of the movie, that version in our thing there. And so I brought it up. My point of discourse being that if there's a reasonable explanation, is this as strong an argument? Because it's really easy to say that, look, I think Joe Blow down on the production line, because I'm sure that there were probably no more than 2 guys assigned to the repaint. They're not going to bring in the full animation team to fix one scene, especially considering all of Lilo's animations are the same. That takes hard work. Meanwhile, taking the still and repainting it and having one guy animate a lid into a pizza box, again, 2 guys, a week-long project to get it done. I remember telling Sherry at one point in person, I was like, I don't think those guys were in on it. I think they're just 2 guys on the production line trying to get the DVD released the way they wanted it. At the same time, in counter-argument, it's really easy that they get the instructions from whatever head honcho, and if that guy was in on it, there's a note in there. Make sure there's a pizza box in there with no context. In the idea of like, ha-ha, in-joke. All of this is plausible. And that was the point of discourse I had with my disagreement with her, not even a disagreement with her post. To get to my post now, her post basically disappeared as we were having the physical conversation. She had called me to check on me at work, and we talked about the post some. And she's like, well, it's gone, so it doesn't even matter. And I was like, what do you mean it's gone? She's like, someone already reported it. I was like, wait, what? Someone had basically, I'll pull up the post because I like the way I worded it in the post, and I don't want this to sound goofy. because basically someone disagreed with what she was saying and reported it. Told Facebook, hey, this is slanderous, fraudulent against your guidelines, whatever the case may be. False information even can get you flagged. And without warning Sherry, they just took it down. Post ceased to exist. My notifications that other people had commented on it were gone. I described it in the post as someone had pressed the shut up button. I don't want to hear what you're trying to say. I disagree with you so much so that I'm not going to allow you to voice that opinion. To which the point of my post that I'm finally getting to was the idea that we should be encouraged to enter discussion, to have conversations, as I put in the post. The idea that we can go and talk to someone that disagrees with us on something and at the end of the day still walk away fine. Maybe our opinion changed a little bit. Maybe we at least see their side of it. Maybe their opinion changed. Maybe we convinced them. Maybe they convinced us. But through conversation is how we grow and change. Except for those of us who were born into the church, I have to assume some degree of conversation had to happen where you had to admit you were wrong and you showed up here on the Sabbath instead of on Sunday or in church at all. We grow through discussion. We grow through discourse. We grow as a people through discourse. It's how we continue to improve things. If we hoard information to ourselves or we just sit by ourselves and not have those discussions, that's the stem of self-righteousness. The idea that I am right, and thus I will not talk to anyone else because clearly they're all wrong. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I don't post a lot on Twitter. I just kind of, what it seems to be is because I follow a lot of artists and game designers and people who work in California. I see a lot of liberal opinions out there. And then I also follow a lot of church people and conservatives out there. And largely, the Twitter sphere seems to be two big echo chambers screaming at each other. And when they touch every so often, people start throwing ban buttons and assuming they're all Russian bots. Like, actual people are just going, I'm not a Russian bot. And it's like, well, why do you have a cartoon character instead of a real picture? It's like, what's the difference between me just Googling a real person and putting a cartoon character up? That doesn't prove anything. But either it's a Russian bot or it's a commie bot. The accusation of a communist bot tends to be from the conservatives. A Russian bot tends to be from the liberals because the Russians are helping all the conservatives. There's an intricate dance out there that I don't like being a part of. But again, like I said, it's like, oh, you're just spouting the other thing. And again, no discourse is really happening. Not a ton of conversation where people are trying to see the other side even, to see where it's coming from. You know, I'm not pro Black Lives Matter. At the same time, I'm pro Black Lives Matter. And to say that, the organization is a Marxist organization that's trying to tear a lot of stuff down that is meaningful and means something. And is stirring a lot of the pot. I couldn't find the article in time for this, but there was an article where Black Lives Matter was going to hold a protest. This was years ago, I think, right after the Freddie Gray stuff, not even the recent stuff, where Black Lives Matter was going to form a protest in their town, and the police chief said, hey, hold on. Instead, and I may have even brought this up before, so sorry to repeat things from the pulpit, I guess, but they were going to do they're going to do the protest, and the police chief went, hey, you know what, instead, we'll do a barbecue, our treat. And instead, they held a panel where people could go up and voice their issues, they could ask questions, they could get clarifications. And instead, they built bridges in that community and became stronger, therefore, of it. Black Lives Matter, the organization, condemned the action. So again, I don't have the article, so I can't, I would rather have the article. It's more credible that way. But I didn't have that. But that was the story as it was told to me, as I remember it being told. I get where the people on the front lines of these movements get from, who have been perhaps suffering under these issues, because not everyone is, unfortunately, I think I've made my point, though. I'm going to go off on a tangent if I keep going down that rabbit hole. But it's easy to, when you look at some of these things, see where they're coming from, if nothing else, to understand what it's about. When you go out there and you can, again, have discourse. If nothing else, broadening your understanding of the world around you, if not convincing someone else of what may be a proper opinion, or vice versa. And I think, again, the idea of we should be open to that ability to change, that ability to, like I said, even change how we understand someone approaching a situation, maybe looking at something. What I want to do is, I'm sorry, before I get to that, there's the bit in the Bible where they tell us, don't let the sun go down on your anger, rather. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. If your brother has offended you, go to him, talk it out. And I think sometimes we have a bad habit of simplifying the conversation, and the idea is, oh, my brother's offended me. It's like, bro, you hurt my feelings when you said that earlier. Bro, my bad. And then they bro it out, and everything's cool. But I think that's because we simplify those verses too often in our heads sometimes. How often is that, bro, why'd you say that? Bro, why you mad? And it's not always an easy conversation when you go to have those things. When you're like, dude, we got to talk about this because it's been eating at me. Dude, no, we don't, because I don't see where I'm in the wrong here. I would add to my... Hold on, let me pull it back up. Get it. I would add to the mantra of my post, enter discourse, have conversations, suffer conflict. Too often I think as soon as the conflict happens, we know we're going to butt heads and we just log off and we leave it alone. Because again, social media, framing everything in social media is almost a... I think it works sometimes. It's like as soon as we start butting heads, we just kind of log off. We're like, oh, that's a hopeless case. We can log off and just step away from it, and it's done, whatever. We've literally, the log off button becomes the new shut up button, where I'm just not going to have a conversation with you. I'm not even listening to you anymore, whatever. I'm going to go get some stuff done. I'll go see what nonsense you were still spouting later because I'm still getting notifications, whatever. But we can do that in real life, too. We can just, we're done. Or we avoid the conflict entirely. We just don't say something because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. We just don't want to have that argument right now. That argument may be what someone needs. And that's the argument in the idea of a discussion where points are being made back and forth, not necessarily a violent one. And that's easy for me to say. I'm an introvert. I hate conflict. I don't like arguments. I back out real hard. I'll tell you a story. I guess to illustrate that point. Earlier this week, I was taking the kids. We were running late for karate practice because I got out of work late. So I'm running up. I'm just going to grab them some Chick-fil-A. I already put in the order on the app. So all I got to do is park and wait for them to bring it to me. We're pulling into the Chick-fil-A. And as we do, there's a car parked in the road there, blinkers on. I was like, oh, okay, someone's dropping someone off. The person getting out of the car is not happy, throws his bag down, and proceeds to jump back into the car to throw fists at the driver. That was about my expression. Thank you, Court. So, yeah, piece of my brain was like, oh, crap. Because, again, conflict avoidance. The rest of me, I told Sherry later, I was just like, is this what you feel like all the time? I was like, I pulled up, not super aggressively, but I pulled up and laid off the horn, which is not too threatening. I'm in a Prius. The horn is not impressive. But, hey, someone's here and watching you, dude. Parked the car, pulled up the app, told them they were here, told the kids to lock the car. I went to try to find the driver because they pulled off into the parking lot. I was like, maybe they parked, and I'd go find them, make sure they're cool. You know, I go in there, and again, I'm like, this is the right thing to do. This is how you do the right thing right here. But there's also a part of my brain going like, just go sit and wait for the Chick-fil-A. Another dude actually came by who, when I was going into the Walmart parking lot there, pulled over and just went, hey, did you see which way he went? And I went, yes, I did see that he went that way. And that dude went, thanks. Pulled across me, gunned it. So I was like, well, there's another good man. Hopefully we'll get something out of this. I can tell he was a good man. He had a Dallas Cowboys hat on. I couldn't find the driver. However, I turned around, and a cop had managed to already find the guy. So I walked up, kept distance, but they said, "Can we help you?" She said, "Can I help you?" I don't think he was involved in that effort, but they said, "No, but I saw it, gave a statement, wrote it down for him, and stuff like that." Like I said, but again, some piece of my brain was, leave it alone. Your kids are in the car, don't worry about it. And yeah, I didn't get out and try to punch the guy. I'm not getting stabbed in front of my kids today, but again, just a conflict aversion. There's still a piece of my head like, I need to do the right thing here. I need to do something. And there's still a piece in my brain that is saying, no, leave it alone. But it's, like I said, it's easy to want to avoid conflict. And it's the conflict that we should be diving into. Grapes grow best, wine, when the seasons are harsh. When things are hard, you grow the most. There's a common saying in Christianity, God never gives you more than you can handle. That's got to be baloney, because if we can handle everything God hands us, we can't lean on him. And sometimes that's the only growth we need, is to grow in that faith. Because at the end of the day, no matter what argument we're having, whether it's political or religious or, what movie you like, I don't care. I was meaning to escalate, but I kind of went, well, no, I already hit the top of the stairs there. No matter what argument it is, very often there isn't a right answer, except for religion. Heck, even with religion, what evidence have we outside of our own faith and belief in this book? Because we don't yet. And unless you guys are walking around with towers of smoke in front of you and towers of fire at night, we still believe we have faith. But we don't have any evidence of that yet, because they have just as much evidence. I wish this was something else I was working on. I'm getting to bring it up now. We can bring up tons of articles and different studies that point at the idea that there was intelligent design in the universe. And just like with me and Sherry going, hey, look at this Pizzagate crap, and someone's sneaking their stuff in there thinking that they're being sly and changing this stuff. And me going, yeah, but there's a reasonable explanation. Just as many articles can get brought up showing that, the Big Bang stuff. Again, to keep it simple, not to dive too deep into that. When there's just that much stuff there, no, it's on faith that we know. It's on faith that we believe that. Because their arguments are going to be enough for them. Our arguments are going to be enough for us. The holes in whoever's arguments are going to be enough to disprove for the other person. Unless they're willing to be open and to endure that conflict until something better emerges, until we grow more in faith. Until God blesses one of us with the growth that we need. He's the vine and we're the fruit thereon, and that conflict makes us grow bigger and swell with that juice that makes the good wine. It is through enduring the conflict, it is through having these conversations and arguments and enduring the change that will make us stronger and grow more. Even when we disagree, we should still be able to not hold that against someone. We shouldn't have to be able to hold a grudge. There's two guys I follow on Facebook in the church, disagree vehemently with each other. Back and forth all the time about modern politics stuff, Black Lives Matter stuff, whatever. They tend to be on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and they go back and forth with each other. But every time I see them with each other, hello, brother, I missed you. And if only we could all be able to endure such conflict and still hold love for the other person. Discuss, converse, suffer in love.